Hey, welcome to another episode of Inquiring Minds. I am Steve Harper, and with me is the incredible, the stupendous Donna Carlin. How's it going, Donna?
It's going. It's an interesting day so far. It certainly is. How are
Interesting.
you
I like
doing?
that. I feel like you had to go air quotes on that interesting. And it
Yeah,
might be like, oh, I'm talking to Steve. Ah, it's interesting. But new glasses. I mean, the glasses game just continues to, go up and up and up. I mean, I love these new specs.
these are my summer glasses, and the reason they're on is because it's snowing outside, and I don't want to discuss this. I mean, with the end of April, I'm looking out the window and it's snowing. So,
Wow.
like, I've had enough. So I figured summer glasses are going to bring the warmth. It
Well,
hasn't worked yet, but maybe,
yeah, it's
yeah.
it's 76 here on its way to 90. So,
Thank you. Thank you.
but a lot of humidity. So, I mean, it's you got to take the good with the bad, I suppose. But what are we talking about today?
So you're going to like this one because I did a show recently called The 8 Minute Ripple, where I was interacting with some really wonderful people in this event. And in one of the breakout sessions, one of the questions was something like, what is a habit that you would like to replace or get rid
Yeah,
of
yeah.
to replace with something else? And I asked my partner to go first because I really couldn't, like, I'm always looking at my habits and I really couldn't think of one. And then it hit me. And I said to her, I want to get out of the habit of feeling guilty when I do nothing, meaning not do any
Oh,
work,
I like that.
housework, or whatever else. So the question that I came to the table with today, speaking to the king of ripplers who created this event in the first place, is do you give yourself permission to do nothing and not feel guilty about it? Because
I love
weekends
that.
are our charging stations.
Yeah, yeah. Oh, I like that. Now first and foremost, I'm glad you attended the 8 Minute Ripple. I'm glad that one of the questions got you thinking because you're the one that gets me with the questions. So one of my Ripple connection questions actually got you to like, okay. So I consider that a success. In fact, I'm gonna, double copy this video so that I can put that, far and wide for people to see it because that means a lot to me. And we do ask those questions to get you thinking, a little bit differently, even in those events because it's so much fun. But I'm glad that it kind of spurred today's conversation because I do think that there is a huge amount of guilt around this, topic of not doing anything. Everybody feels like they have to be doing something at all times, and there is a line from Eat, Pray, and Love. That I really liked, and I will blow it because I don't speak Italian, but they have a phrase which I won't embarrass myself or any of our Italian audience by trying, but it's the art of doing nothing. And their goal behind their life
Yeah,
is to find all those moments where you can relish in the art of doing nothing. Uh, and sure, that's not just sitting, under a tree necessarily, just like, well, just I'm here. Well, it's at your own pace, at your own, without pressure of having to accomplish anything that you don't want to accomplish. And sometimes that could be sitting under a tree in a park, reading a book, or reading the newspaper, or just enjoying the sounds of nature. But you see less and less people that do that, these days because, number one, we all have this distraction of these that are constantly on our hips all the time. We have the pressures of work. We have this rat race, this kind of hamster wheel that we find ourselves on really doesn't lend itself to taking those necessary breaks, and they're so important, right?
that's it. Last week we talked about how do you achieve mastery. And I think one of the ways that we achieve mastery is to give ourselves space to just be.
Yeah.
Because if we're constantly going, constantly working, constantly, ticking off our to-do list, there is no time to just replenish our like our being. It's really hard to put into words. I used to work through every weekend. like I had so much catching up to do, so many emails and posts, and there's the pressure of social media and
Yeah,
writing, and I'm writing a program with a colleague, and it's looking at snippets that would interest the overall public on LinkedIn and other platforms, because people ask for it
sure.
when I'm delinquent, and I am delinquent right now. I really need to get posting again. Work has been incredibly like full of pressures and
And you feel
problems and
that
issues.
pressure, right? I mean, that
Yes,
pressure is just constantly always there.
and I feel it now because my clients are in a perfect storm. They're in the middle of cybersecurity issues. They're in the middle of COVID still, and the issues of COVID and another wave and that kind of thing, and so many other pressures, relational pressures within
Yeah,
the workplace, that these are need to be addressed in like an immediate way. However, I can't be available 24/7. My clients are all over the world, so if they're 7 hours ahead of me, I know that they're writing me while I'm sleeping, and that's in
yeah,
the back of my mind. So, how do you disconnect? And I realize, sometimes by Wednesday, welcome to Wednesday, by the end of the day, I'm like a dish rag because it's already been such an intense week. So
yeah.
I need to replenish. But there's the home stuff,
Sure.
the cooking and the cleaning, and I'm great. Like I have a phenomenal husband who does so much. There's always something to do, and I used to beat myself up, and I'm not doing that anymore.
Yeah,
Weekends are for us. Weekends are for me. They're for recharging, just like you have to recharge your electric car. If you've got an electric car, you need to recharge and reset and let the world in. Not always go 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 go, but just let the world in. So if it is sitting under a tree or reading, or for me lately, I got back into painting because I missed it.
yeah,
It's a way of just concentrating on the next dot and the next dot that I put on the porcelain. Um, it is so relaxing. And then I find by Monday, I can't wait to get going. I don't dread Monday.
yeah.
I can't wait to dive into the deep end because I have replenished. And I think we need to give ourselves permission to say it'll still be there tomorrow and the world won't fall apart.
Yeah, yeah. Well, and you talk about, painting like an example. You get to lose yourself a little bit in one of those activities. For me, it's woodworking. I like, just sort of losing myself at a piece that I might be working on. I hadn't done it in a very long time, and I've had a very stressful, similar to you, very stressful start to this year. That, I went out and I cleaned up my workshop a little bit, got everything in, and went and got a piece of wood and started working on what I was gonna carve. And I realized that hours had gone by that just felt like it had been minutes, and I loved it because at the end of the day, it was I felt like I was accomplishing something just for me in that moment, in that time. And it was like you said, it was like like I plugged myself into a recharger, because despite a fairly stressful and busy weekend, when I found those hours both on Saturday and Sunday, it just like completely raised my my energy level and my enthusiasm. And while I'm sitting there just working on this piece, my mind is thinking about various things relative to projects I've got coming up, and some things that I need to be making decisions on for work. And I was in a calm state. I wasn't allowing my anxiety. If I were to come in and sit in my chair or walk in my office and think about these things, my anxiety level goes through the roof on certain things. And I thought it was really interesting we're talking about that this week, because I noticed it and recognized it, that in that moment of recharge, how it did allow for me to create a more of a peaceful place for me to allow my brain to decompress. But that's when some ideas came back up. And so by Monday, I was ready to hit the ground running. And it was just such a great, peaceful way to start my week. You talk about the weekend, but I've also been finding and trying very hard to find those moments of recharge during the day as well. So I meditate in the morning when I first get here. We have a little meditation studio we've created within our office space. But I'll also eat my lunch, and then I'll go spend the 20 minutes also meditating midday. And it is amazing for what it does for me for the rest of the day. As opposed, I may walk in there completely exhausted from the morning, just physically and mentally tired, and I can spend 20 minutes in there, go through a little meditation, and walk out refreshed, recharged, like I was walking into the office, at 6:30 that morning, right? So those things are important to incorporate into your daily habits as well, whether it's 20 minutes, 5 minutes, maybe just a minute before the next call.
What I do, like now that I'm working at home, since COVID, I'm not on planes all the time. I will go downstairs and I will have some fun time or cuddling time with our dog. And
Yep.
it's just it's really interesting because somebody said to me yesterday, "Oh, you did, you got another golden retriever," because I had had golden retrievers in the past. And surprise, surprise, it's somebody that I haven't spoken to in years who reconnected. And so I said, we rescued him. He was abused, he was neglected, and we rescued him from an agency. And I said, I don't look at it from the perspective of, me wanting another golden retriever. I looked at it from a perspective of, if I do nothing else, I will teach him that he doesn't have to be fearful of human beings, that there are people in this world that could give
Yep.
love. So I literally go down and I have so much fun with him. He's like 90 pounds, right? So he'll
Yep.
give me a hug and I'm face to face with this fur ball. And it just makes the rest of the world go away.
Yep.
But my focus is watching him with Turbo Tail, where he was so folded in on himself that he was like his tail, everything was protected, to being this open, rambunctious, loving animal. And when we don't take time to notice these things, he wouldn't be in the same place that he is now because we
Yep.
don't even have him a year. It's taken very slow progress to help him integrate. Um, but what it brings to me is just a disconnect from all the pressures, all the stress, to just notice the. And when you look outside yourself, that's the other thing about creating that space and
Yeah.
disconnecting. Look outside yourself, you're going to see things that you never paid attention to. I
Okay.
said to my mother the other day, who's painting again, at the almost the age of 94.
Good for her.
She did like a scene, like a sky, and I said to her, "Remember, you're never going to see the same cloud formations twice in your life, ever. Notice them, and capture what is beautiful in them." We don't take the time to do that. We are
No.
just so focused of filling our days with as much stuff as we could get that we forget about living life. And I think this is an important conversation for us to have, for people to reflect on and ask themselves, am I giving myself permission to do nothing, to disconnect, to just be?
Yeah. When I was a little kid, one of the things that I just loved to do, I was always on the go, always doing something. But the the memories that stick out are the times where I would just lay up on the grass underneath our big tree, and I just had enough of a view out from my perspective of just blue, blue, blue sky, and my favorite thing was watching the cloud formations. And we have a bench not far from our office. We can go out the back, and there's a little grassy area that somebody's put a bench. And I go out there oftentimes after I've had a call or just feel like I need a break just to get away from my desk for a bit and the laptop. And I'll go out there, and I literally had thought this just a few weeks ago. So the fact we're talking about this is really pretty amazing. But I identified all the way back to those early childlike memories, just sitting with my hands behind my head, just watching the cloud shapes, and then letting my mind wander and my imagination try and come up with the shapes that you see and how you make it into something that only you can do, right? Only you can recognize in that moment, because somebody sitting, to your right or someone a mile away will see a completely different shape and perspective of the cloud. And it's one of the best meditative things that you can do, because it is just a great way to unplug, let your mind wander for a bit, or not, just empty for just a short period of time. And remember thinking, this is probably 3 weeks ago, I need to do this more often. I need to do it. And You don't. And so it's a great reminder. This episode's a great reminder to us, but also to our audience. Build in those times. And if you can do it during the day and you've got that luxury, find those opportunities. You'll cherish them. They will make a difference. But then, like Donna suggests, let your weekend be your weekend, right? Separate yourself from the work, which for entrepreneurs and business leaders, that can be very challenging. But it also comes down to, and we've talked about this on prior episodes, it's about establishing and setting your boundaries and sticking to them. And
Yeah,
when you can do that, it's amazing what a big impact it can have on every aspect of your career.
exactly. That's exactly right. And you know what? I want to hear from our listeners
Yep.
as to how do you disconnect? Do you disconnect on weekends, at least on weekends, or do you take another day to really call your own? And what are your tricks to be able to give yourself permission, enjoy, and not feel guilty about it?
Yeah.
I would love to hear that.
And that guilt factor is a big one, right? And if you are feeling guilty, why do you feel guilty? We'd love to hear that
That's
as
right.
well, because there may be an opportunity to engage in a dialogue to have Donna or myself work with you to overcome that. Because and it's not it's not a you're not isolated or alone in that feeling. We all have it. I have it occasionally when I just don't feel like I feel like I should be doing something. Well, those are self pressures that I'm putting on myself. Nobody's you got to stopwatch or checking off a box to see if Steve did anything on a Saturday. Well, maybe Donna might because we got to edit these videos. But
Yeah,
I
for the
that
opposite reason.
that's right, that's right. But we would love to hear from that as well. That perspective. Love to have you share, your challenges with it because I think it's useful and helpful and it creates more dialogue opportunities for us to have. Maybe we expand upon that in some capacity in a future episode.
Exactly.
So Donna, how do people share their perspective on this or any other episodes? How do they get engaged and involved with Inquiring Minds and become part of this process? Help us find new topics, new perspectives to maybe have these conversations around.
Join our Facebook group, Inquiring Minds with Donna Carlin and Steve Harper. Let us know what you think, what you're experiencing, how you're using what you're hearing from us, and what you want us to discuss. We want you a part of the conversation.
Yeah.
Or through our website, Steve's at ripplecentral.com. I'm at donnacarlin.com, Carlin with a K. And you can get our social media through there. You can contact us. We want to hear from you.
Absolutely. Well, Donna, this is fantastic. I am going to take our own advice, and I'm gonna get our editing done before Friday, so I can actually use this weekend to truly recharge. So I'm looking forward to that.
Sounds great.
All right. Well, you have a great day, and we'll be back again very soon with another episode of Inquiring Minds.
Have a good one.